Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Guido Vianello, the Italian heavyweight, has turned in a career-best performance against Arslanbek Makhmudov just when he needed it. His career was riding on this fight, so too Makhmudov. So you have Vianello getting a stoppage in the 8th round. The referee waves it off after the doctor adjudges Arslanbek Makhmudov could not continue because his eye was messed up. And actually that was a feature of the fight, the referee stopping the fight for the doctor to have a look. But this was a performance from Guido Vianello which started off with authority in the first round. So you had a case of Arslanbek Makhmudov having a look, trying to apply some pressure, trying to time Vianello. Problem was he was getting caught with right hands and right uppercuts, and actually at the end of that round there was a moment pretty much on the bell. It looked like a right hand had momentarily stunned Makhmudov, and what we saw for the next few rounds, a continuation. And there was a shot, I believe, in the 3rd round where Makhmudov, his left eye started blowing up, swelling, and you could see over the course of about a minute it went from a small little mouse to basically the eye had closed up. And Guido Vianello just kept going to town on Arslanbek Makhmudov, who at this point was eating right hands and uppercuts like Tic Tacs, and it was not looking good for him. And you could probably argue that this fight actually went on a couple of rounds too long, but Makhmudov was one of the house fighters on this card, and perhaps that played a part in the doctor letting it go on a little bit too long, because he had a look in round 5, he also had a look in round 7, and then at the start of round 8. And the referee, you could tell, did not like the state of that eye, but Makhmudov kept fighting through, kept continuing. And you have to say, a hurt fighter sometimes can be a dangerous fighter, and Makhmudov was just trying to get something away, something telling to land, trying to change the course of this fight. And actually, he did cut Guido Vianello in round 5. Pretty sure it was from the head because it was starting to get pretty, he couldn't see out of the left eye at all. And here's an illustration of that, completely closed up. I think this is after about round 5 or 6. You had him trying to play dirty a bit, rough up Guido Vianello. He got a point deducted in round 6. He had hit Vianello behind the head, but I think that was accumulation of a number of things. He'd been warned previously for a number of infractions, and the referee wasn't having it. So this probably went on a little bit too long, and you have to have a little bit of concern for that eye for Makhmudov and the sort of potential long-term damage, because at a certain point after about round 7, it looked like the big welt that had closed it up was starting to get a welt on top of the welt. So I don't like the looks of that for Makhmudov in the what next. But this was a case where Guido Vianello did the business. There was a bit of risk involved in. He was still willing to chance it and trying to really stop Makhmudov even in those later rounds with authority. He was gambling a little bit because Makhmudov still was there with a puncher's chance, even though he could barely see what was coming from Makhmudov. Makhmudov, I thought right from the outset, was far more passive than he usually is and what we've seen in the past. And I think that allowed Vianello to get into the fight quicker, because you didn't have a case of Makhmudov being a menacing presence and force, which he often is. He tries to intimidate opponents, but Guido Vianello was having none of it. There really wasn't a lot of it. As soon as he started to land, he put Makhmudov on the back foot at times, and he was comfortable in there. This was a measured performance of part risk, part sort of using his range and his skills. So there was a mix of danger and finesse and skill all sort of rolled up into one. So Guido Vianello gets a huge win, and I guess it's not often after a loss where he got a split decision loss to F.A. Ajagba where you come into your next fight probably more buoyed by your performance, even though it was a loss, than anything else that he's had in his career. But he mixed it with a big, powerful, menacing guy in Ajagba and almost took that one. This one, he came in confident, and it showed. Best performance by Vianello, maybe aside from that Ajagba performance, but certainly the best win of his career. And I think based on that, a lot of us are going to be saying, look, let's see more of Guido Vianello. Let's throw him in at the next level, at the next tier, because he is a guy who's got good height, 6'6". He can box, he can move, but also he's got a bit of dog in him. And we also saw, maybe not so much in this fight, but the Ajagba one, he's certainly got a chin. Makhmudov in this one struggled to land. He didn't land many shots of note, certainly not a lot clean. And what he did take, Guido Vianello didn't really have any problem. Actually, I think it was round 6, was it? Round 5 or round 6, whichever round it was. There was clearly a point where Makhmudov touched down on the canvas. I think maybe it was actually round 7, and the referee didn't catch it. So there was a missed knockdown. But Guido Vianello seemed to hurt Makhmudov a number of times in this fight, and even before the eye started to become an issue in round 3. So good performance. In terms of Makhmudov and the what next, I'm going to cover that in another video, but I think we have to give the flowers to Guido for this one, because he has been a guy at a certain level where he's disappointed previously. He's had some pretty turgid performances. The Jay McFarlane fight was pretty uninspiring. He's had a run of fights where things didn't necessarily, he wasn't setting the world alight. But the last couple of performances, he has come through, shone through, and shown his quality. And I would like to see him have another, fight at a big level. So hopefully we can get him on a Saudi card potentially. What about him versus Justis Huni? There are some names that you can mix him with that I think could be very close and competitive fights. And given Justis Huni, for example, had a little bit of trouble at the end of his fight with Kevin Lerena, and Lerena's maybe, top 25 or so, is Guido maybe somewhere between top 20 and top 30, based on that performance we saw against Makhmudov. He was somewhere there or thereabouts, or considered to be ahead of this fight. So I think maybe him versus Huni, him versus Dempsey McKean. There's a number of guys we could potentially see Guido Vianello in with. What about a rematch with Johnny Rice? Rice got the win because he cut Guido open from a punch. He landed a big shot. Guido may want some get back. So we'll have to see what happens. But I think based on that, Guido stays on. And for Makhmudov, well, I'll cover that off. But he didn't look like the same guy, the same menacing fighter. Maybe they've, tried to retool some things, and it's, it hasn't quite worked out here. I think there's probably a whole confluence of factors. One of those also being Guido Vianello's career best performance. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.